Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to Pro Cycling Manager 2020. It's Champions. We're on episode number 12. We've pushed forward into the middle of May. We are at a race that doesn't matter. We've actually skipped a few minor objectives and succeeded in one, failed in the other two miserably, and so we have seen our sponsor rating drop a bit, but really isn't important as long as the sponsor still is the sponsor. And that is easily going to happen. We're easily going to have a successful season, albeit not with the 100% evaluation that I usually pride myself on. We're at Paris-Roubaix, but not the big one. We're not going to World Tour races as a continental team. This is the youth Paris-Roubaix version, and so we're setting off on this one. I have brought a couple of riders that are now into the 70s. Nebula today actually at 74, so very nice on that front. Groot, let's go ahead and get you to protect her. Spider-Man not looking so good either. Ant-Man looking good, but the weak one with the cobble rating. Black Widow is the other strong one, unfortunately on a -2. So Spider-Man, go ahead and protect Black Widow, and then Gamora is our strong rider, but not necessarily on a day like today. Ant-Man looking a little stronger, 70 resistance, 68, better flat rating. That does help. We'll let those two ride individually, and we set ourselves up now. Settle into a long race ahead of us, 175 kilometers to go. 22 in the break. That's a very large breakaway, almost a 4-minute gap. Only a few cobbled sections early on, and then it really starts to pick up tempo as we go on later to the race. So let's go ahead and speed up until we get past those first three and set to go into the next section. Well, disaster struck 3 times in that early section. Gamora puncturing not once but twice, and then Black Widow going down in a crash that took quite a while before she got up. Now, Black Widow is one of our 2 favorites. At least for us, it's the one who's on the -2 race day condition today, while Nebula is on the +2. But all of a sudden, we have a peloton of just 27 riders remaining as we enter the middle group of sectors in this race. So totally different race now, and the gap is way too big. Black Widow and Gamora 4 minutes behind by the time we get through all of this. So Ant-Man struggling a little bit at the back of this very shrunken peloton. Just 23 riders, or at least 27 for the most part. It looks like it is coming back together, with maybe a few being dropped this time through. So it's that same hard race that we know, with riders that really aren't that well equipped to handle things. We're seeing that impact quite quick. Groot, Spider-Man both struggling in what is already down to just 21 riders in the peloton. Breakaway has a decent shot at things with a 1.5-minute gap as things crumble behind them and within their group itself. A handful of good cobble-rated riders could easily come away with this thing. Gamora has been left behind by Black Widow. Obviously, that better cobble rating having an impact, but at 4 minutes behind, we're not going to see them again. So Spider-Man, Groot, both are struggling already and going out the back, and we're going to see fewer than 21 riders here in just a moment. Looks like about 15 left once Spider-Man is dropped. And they're both going to go solo. So Ant-Man now to protect Nebula. And there's only one rider left off the front, so that gap has closed. That's a good sign. We did pick up some riders from the break, what was left of that. And we're already down to just 15 in that chase. And that one's going to be gone quite soon. So yes, this peloton is going to grab the winner, and Nebula is certainly looking like a contender today, not only for a top 10, but certainly better. 3-star section as we go through here near the freeway there, and we continue on. Now just 14. 2 riders have gone away, so somebody went over and bridged that gap. Not the best place to be when you have a group this size chasing, well, just 2 riders. That one rider continued on, though. We're going to up the effort for Nebula. Ant-Man can hang on a little while longer. When you get into the final group of sectors, I can see going clear, but there is such a long, flat section here. That rider who is now solo, it's too long to ride solo just a short distance. I mean, they only have a 1-minute gap. We are down to 13 now in the peloton. We're chasing 1 again, though it's a different one than it was before. Of course, they are going to be a lot more fresh than the rider who was relegated to this group. That's number 91. That's the DSM development team. And they got a puncture just now, and we're down to 12. Their chances were quite minimal after being away for so long anyway, but oh shoot, Ant-Man. Red bar goes, group done. Ant-Man now riding solo. It's Nebula in the final 7, chasing that final 1 as we have one more section to get through here.
Really treacherous.
For a second I thought I was seeing an attack. No. Oh, come on, come on, come on. Don't you dare get dropped. There you go. Okay, I think we need to start contributing here within the group. So 7 chasing 1. Gaps opened to a minute 20. However, that rider, again, riding solo over this long period of time, 69 flat rating, 72 cobble is not looking so good. Okay.
Really should pay more attention to their
We
choice
are
of
pulling
tires.
them back, but we do want cooperation within this group. Looks like only 1 rider is refusing to cooperate. Let's go ahead and get water. Our final time. We're on our own here. So, Van den Bosch, 67 cobble rating. 71 cobble rating. 72. Bloom Levy asking 70. So actually we are really in with a chance in this thing as we come up on this set of cobbled sections. This is going to be where you want to start leaving riders behind and trying to go clear. Maybe not on the first sector. You want to wear them out through the first couple of sectors. You can see how we're now coming back at that rider who went clear. And this was their mistake. This is where they went wrong, because they're not going to have any energy when we come up to them. They're going to be exhausted from riding solo.
There's another rider with a puncture. The sides of the road are not a tire's best
Not
friend.
first sector.
The
Not
weather
first
plays a vital
sector.
role
Be
in
patient.
anyways, but when there's a
Be
cobble
patient,
section,
but
its
be ready
contribution
to
can be vital.
respond.
If it rains,
Just
a
15
rider's
seconds
agility
behind
is
that
far
leader
more
now.
important than when it's dry.
Still 7 riders, and this is why you got to wait a little bit. Wear them out slightly. Still a 15-second gap ahead of us. Not the second sector either, but maybe in that triple set coming up. Our turn's done. We've got plenty of energy. Not plenty of cooperation any longer, though, and that is the fatigue setting in for some of these riders. This is why we want to attack
Another flat
soon.
tire.
Back to the front already, since there's only 3 of us working. So Nebula does need to have a go at this thing. 4-star sector, this is the perfect time. Can we get off the front a little bit? Bridge the gap, we're back together. Down to 6. No cooperation at the moment. Sit up, it's not time yet. Okay, we're back to 7. So just 1 rider has been dropped. Can't really sprint from this. That's failing us at the moment, trying to get off the front in that manner. Down to 6, though.
15 kilometers remaining.
been on the front way too long. Okay, now here come the
Apparently, there's another
others
puncture.
trying
The
to
riders
attack.
really should pay more attention to their choice of tires.
13 kilometers. Nearly guaranteed a top 5. Only one more rider needs to be dropped for that to happen. And only a single sector remains. Now, in terms of a sprint, I don't think we have any sort of
Finish line is
advantage.
getting close. The riders just passed the 10 kilometers road sign. Yet
Really, only
another flat
one
tire.
has
It
an
seems to be
advantage,
catching.
and that's the rider
Panther
who
with
went
the
solo
finishing
for
line
quite a
within
while.
reach. This year, some sections have seen
Oh,
their
and then they
cobblestones
get a
refurbished,
puncture.
but I can assure
Can we
you
get
that
clear?
it
We do
doesn't
get
mean
clear.
renewed. They still remain a significant difficulty. Falling
We do
behind.
get
A team
clear
leader is
by
falling
a small
behind.
margin here. And it's going to be 5 for the finish unless we can stay ahead. I don't think we are. There we go. Back together again. Gel up with
That's
6
another
kilometers to
rider
go.
with
This
a
is
flat
not a lot of
tire.
tempo,
The
though.
road is really treacherous.
Don't want anyone coming back.
There are just 5
And
kilometers
here
left.
we are. Into the velodrome. 4K to go. Two of them are shoulder sagging really bad.
Rider has
That gives
fallen,
us a
and he's not getting
really
back
great
up.
chance at a top
It looks
3
like he'll
today.
have to abandon the race.
And only one sprinter, and that's the one whose shoulders sagged, well, were a moment ago anyway.
There's another rider with a
1.7.
puncture. The sides
There's
of the road are
Ant-Man
not
into
a
the
tire's best
velodrome.
friend.
1K to
And the
go.
final sprint is off.
But we
Who's
do
gonna be
not
the first
have
to
the
line
energy
today?
to go for much. We're going to wait till late. Waiting till late was a good thing because there's the energy running out right at the finish
Victory
line.
right
It
on
is
the
a
line.
podium. Bovin,
real show of
Lorraine,
power. We're waiting for the
Nebula
back
grabs
markers,
third
who appear
place.
to be fairly numerous in
Okay.
this difficult race.
Ant-Man. 99 to the finish. 1.5K. Top 10 might still be in the cards here for Ant-Man.
Apparently, there's another
And
puncture.
yes, it
The
is.
riders
10th
really should
place.
pay more attention to their choice
There's
of tires.
Groot into the velodrome. Groot, top 20 it looks like. I thought they were already coming around for that final turn. It wasn't. They had one more to go. Oh, they just missed top 20. 22nd. Spider-Man gets 23rd. 36th for Black Widow. Really good sign of just how strong we are getting compared to the youth. It's youth race. They all went from 50s, and in 1.5 years, we've got somebody on the podium, another in the top 10, and almost everybody in the top 50. Gamora just missing out, but Gamora, of course, missing out massively today by having 2 punctures early in that first group of sectors and losing a ton of time. Same with Black Widow. Black Widow still managed to finish 36th, moving well up the order. Both of those two were, oh gosh, let's see, in terms of placement, that would have put them down around 80th and below when they went out the back. So they made up a lot of ground and passed up a
Yet
lot of
another
riders
flat
on the
tire.
way to the
It
finish.
seems to be catching.
Not a win, but a really good result, definitely for this team, for this group. Now that we're into the middle of May, we're going to check up on a couple of things. First off, Cyclops, I'm not able to manage their fitness properly, but they are leveling up. They haven't leveled up that first one yet, but there's a couple of reasons for that. One, they've only been around for just shy of 2 months now. Typically, we would have seen a level up by this point, but I think they're any day away from that happening. And the reason why they're a little below par on that is the rider that we overtook, that we adopted to become Cyclops. Well, that rider was a lower potential than what we now have in Cyclops, but the training value, that F value, is determined at the first of the year. So it was already predetermined to be lower than what we're used to. Remember last season we had everyone between 18 and 22. It's a little lower this year as they've picked up some levels, and it's not quite as high, but they're still like 16 to 21-ish. So they're still quite high. It just dropped a little bit. Now, Cyclops, on the other hand, had like a 14, 13, something like that, and also a lower training category coming right off the bat into Modern. So lower variable and a lower starting value means this season anyway, Cyclops is leveling up significantly slower. Now, still at a 55, getting that late start to the year, a few months behind everybody else, means that in terms of evaluation, we're looking at Cyclops isn't going to gain much this season at all. Level up maybe twice before the end of the year, maybe 3 times before the end of the year. But that also means that come next season and that new evaluation takes place, it should be much higher. I mean, they'll probably be a 20 plus for next season and level up significantly quicker. I don't know if they'll switch from Modern up to Groundbreaking. I don't know if that's going to be a thing or if that's just something that slowly backs off over time. They're not the only one on Modern. There's a few riders already on Modern, so a couple riders switched off this year as they've leveled up pretty rapidly. Let's go ahead and take a look at the team as it stands right now. You can see we now have a few 71s. I was slightly worried when Gamora went from a 70 only to a 71, and one of those others, I think it was Hulk, doing the same. They're backing off. We went from 50 to 70 about 2 levels at a time, sometimes 3 levels at a time. And now the 70 towards 85, are we down to 1.5 levels per kind of pace? That's a little worrying because at this point, we started the season around level 7. I'm guessing we're around level 9 by this point. It could be just level 8. But there's only 20 levels. So we are a little past halfway towards 85. But if they're going to actually achieve it, which, huge part of the experiment, can they actually achieve that from lowest to highest, from 50 to 85? Well, if they're already slowing it down to 1 per level, or just over 1 per level, either way, the pace, the tempo, right? If we only have 10 or 11 level ups left to go, and we still have 15 levels to go, or 14 levels to go for some, they're going to have to, right? They can't slow down too much. They can't slow down too much, because as we know from regular characters within the database, there's plenty of times where you'll go through a level a couple times before you level up, meaning it's less than 1 per as you get to the later end. So if we're already getting down to 1 now, it might be a little too soon for that, and we might not actually get to that ceiling. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Definitely something. If it's still something around 1.7, 1.8 levels per, or average per level up, we might still be okay. But we'd hope that it would still be hovering around maybe a 2 at this point, down from about a 3 down to a 2, eventually down to about a 1.5. And, we might hit those 85s. We might actually hit that ceiling and achieve that perfection. Let's check in on one other thing here before we go into our next race, Ronde Alps, which is one of our major objectives of the season. We took that bit of a hit. The next 2 major objectives are both overlapping with one another, and so that's kind of what we're going to focus on this episode and maybe next, and then again kind of push towards maybe national championships and world championships and kind of just get through the end of the season. So checking in on rider type and whether we're starting to see the emergence of that style. Gamora looks a bit more like a climber than a puncher, but not far off. Definitely heading in the right direction for a puncher. Groot, sprinter, acceleration's coming up. Resistance is looking good. The sprint itself is emerging as a sprinter. Hulk, climber, 73 Mountain, absolutely looking like a climber. Ironman time trial, 73 on the prologue. Time trial's really lagging behind, but a 73 prologue is 3 points higher than any other attribute they have. Also, a 70 flat suggests that, yes, we are seeing not a totally balanced version, but definitely showing up as a time trialist. So we are really starting to see that pattern emerge, that slowly but surely. It took a while, but we're getting there to where they are beginning to develop as they should. Nebula, Baradur, yeah, flat rating, very high. A little surprised about these. Baradur rating itself only a 68. That's okay with me, as that really doesn't matter for us. But resistance, flat. Stamina's not there. Baradur is not there. But 2 of those 4 attributes are emerging as such. Spider-Man, punchy above all else. Star-Lord, really lagging behind the others. Somehow that potential got knocked down. It was set to a 6, and I've had to reset it to a 6 a couple times, and it keeps coming back to it's a 5. I don't know how that's happened, why that's happened, but Star-Lord is underdeveloping compared to everybody else. By a wide margin, is only a 65. Prologue rating, downhill ratings are the highest. Cobble rating still just a 64. Stamina still just a 62. Flat just a 64. Not looking at all like the rider you would expect. So we've seen one fall through the cracks completely here in Star-Lord. Thor, stage racer. The hills are coming up, but the climbing not so much. Time trial seems to be coming up downhill somehow, massively outpacing everything else. Recovery's coming up. It looks like a stage racer, just a really poor version of one. Wolverine, fractured thigh, has been out for a while. Sprinter, let's see, flat rating's good. Sprint's not. Still very balanced. Nothing's really jumping out at you other than that mountain rating's looking decent. So there's a couple now that haven't quite stepped into their profiles. Ant-Man, Baradur, flat rating, very good. Baradur rating, stamina rating. So yes, Ant-Man is definitely starting to look the part. Black Panther, time trialist, 68, 66, but nothing's looking very high. You gotta say, if anything, that, yeah, I mean, I suppose that they are starting to look their part a bit, but a bit off the pace. Black Widow, Climber, yeah, I don't know about that. Cobble rating, looks like a classics rider to me. Captain America, stage racer, balanced, emergent, another poor man's stage racer, but yes, we are seeing that pattern emerge. And then Cyclops still that 55. Deadpool, not quite looking like a classics rider other than stamina's up. And I think we started with Gamora, right? Yes, we did. Okay. We are seeing that pattern emerge more and more and more. The riders are beginning to be shaped like the rider type that they are. Slowly but surely. And at this point, I'd say all but 4, maybe 5 are there. So a good 2/3 of the team have emerged as their profile, either somewhat or largely. I don't know about largely. Somewhat or would be defined by their profile. I think that's about as far as you can go with it. Nobody is pushing to the extreme. Nobody is a 75 here while a 65 everywhere else. Nobody is well clear of as their type, as their style. But we are definitely seeing that pattern emerge, that they are becoming more and more that style as we're kind of hitting the midway point. So early on, they're just develop across the board, with that ceiling being a long ways away. but we are just starting to see that pattern, right? Pick out that maybe you add 2 points across the board, but you add 3 points in the specialty area, and that happening again and again is slowly getting, those attributes 4 or 5 points ahead of some of the others, 3 points ahead of the others. It's showing up just a little bit at a time. And I'm really curious to see what happens with Cyclops, but it just doesn't seem like we're going to get a good taste of that until next season. So as a result, as it's a limited example so far, for next season, we're going to add another to the team again, as per the rules. But we're going to follow the same pattern. We're going to go with a 58 with the max ceiling. So they're starting off a little bit higher, and hopefully this time we can hijack the rider much earlier on. I'm going to try to sign somebody on that's just low, and then just reshape them before we even get into the season. Reshape them in like November into another one similar to the others here, another Marvel character. Take that character early on and make those changes early, well ahead of the start of the season, so that hopefully things work and function next season as intended, and they'll get that reevaluation January 1st as intended, and hopefully, take that mold on a little quicker, because it looks like Cyclops is kind of sitting this season out for the most part, not really developing so much anyway. Developing more like the the 1 or 2 potential character that they took over. In future seasons, I'd like to change that up and not just go for that max ceiling, but go for really, really focused rider types. For example, maybe taking a climber with a very, very max ceiling in the right attributes. A max ceiling to their mountain, a high ceiling to hills, a max ceiling to resistance, an okay recovery, okay stamina, and then nothing. Keep it a 50 in Barad-dûr, okay ceiling for downhill. But keep it low in acceleration. Keep it very low in sprint. No cobble rating. They don't need time trial or prologue, so keep those extremely low. Keep flat fairly low. Make it realistic for what a climber could be, but for what the best climber could be without the additional attributes. And then see how that character develops. Starting at maybe a base of, say, 60, and keep some of the attributes with a ceiling of 60. So their flat's not going to go above 65. Their cobble's not going to go above 60. And then see how that develops. See how it is when you have 25 points of mountain ahead of you, 25 points of resistance available to you. And see if they do develop more rapidly in that area. I'm so interested in what we can do with this, and there's so many different options, so many things to look at. One more thing I really want to look at for next season is early in the year, if I get enough of a gap in the calendar around January, I'd love to set a base and target what happens week by week in early January with everyone in terms of how many points they're gaining. And then I'd love to see an experiment with going to a training camp and seeing if there's any change to the values, or is it purely cosmetic? Is it purely building fitness or preparing for a race? Is there an actual gain to the rider's development in any way, shape, or form? So that's one isolated experiment I want to run. So there's things I want to do here, and this is also a good opportunity for you to maybe throw in some comments. There was one question about sprinters and development, and I do seem to see sprinters develop more slowly than other areas. Groot's a 69 and not really developing as a sprinter. In fact, some of our 71s up there are better sprinters than our sprinters are as sprinters, even though one of them anyway, in Groot, is starting to show up more as a sprinter than other areas. But that seems to be one that doesn't develop well. I don't know if they nerfed sprinters so that they don't develop too quickly or what. I don't know what the case is there, but there does seem to be something going on. Well, anyway, let's get one more stage in before we call this an episode, and let's get back to racing. Stage 1 for Rhone Alps, 5 climbs to the finish. It's supposed to be a sprint stage, but it's just punchy enough that guaranteed there's not going to be 120 riders left at the end, so we will see some degradation in the size of this peloton. You can see all of us go back slightly through that, but one team is using almost their entire squad to chase down the group at the front. I'm guessing that's a sprint team. Oh, that's 2 different teams. They're just both red and white. Either way, that's a lot of riders. So 1 climb done. This second climb is very moderate, very slowly, gently uphill. We do need to get water one final time, and I'm very late on getting that. I should have done that good 10-15 kilometers ago, so hopefully Black Panther can get back up here before we hit the next climb, and does. Good job. Let's also pick up the pace. 80 now as we begin this triple looping climb. First circuit through, and we are done. That wasn't so bad, but actually, if you look at the characters, all of them suffering a bit, Cyclops especially. And already there's only 89 riders left as we are seeing more and more split off. We regain connection as we begin the second time up the climb. Okay, pick up the tempo one more time through. And Cyclops definitely going backwards, but has not been dropped yet. 78 riders left, some again regaining contact before we hit the climb a third, as the field is very much all over the place, but it's a short climb, so it's easy to get dropped but then regain contact because it's not that long of a climb, so the gaps are very small. Cyclops is officially dropped. 121 riders left as we go over the top, and this time around really not that many are suffering, and we're just 9k away from the finish now, and we're gonna have to set ourselves up for the finish. Ant-Man unfortunately is our quickest. We need to get you up there very, very quick. Once they regain contact near the front, we will set up our sprint chain and push for the finish. Come on, Ant-Man. I can't use the rest of the road over there for some reason. Wouldn't let me get over any further. Still not in contact. 5.4k. That's not good news. So Ant-Man is going to be led out by who? Nebula or Groot? Groot. Oh, sorry. Reset. 99. There we go. Ant-Man following Groot, following Nebula, following Star-Lord. Black Panther, how far back are you? You're right behind Star-Lord, of course. Groot right now is near the front. How about we change this up slightly and Groot get out of the order. Drop. Okay, now we follow Groot. Groot's gonna start this thing off. And then as soon as we emerge, we're gonna get somebody else to take over. But we can't afford to go backwards this close to the finish already. This is the last little uphill swing. Black Panther's about to get dropped, so they're out of this thing. So Star-Lord, come on through. This is why we did not want to risk dropping back 30 wheels. It's already 2.5k from the finish. Groot's near the front. Star-Lord's going to start sprinting. Okay, that's Nebula. Ant-Man's too far back. I want Groot to get behind Nebula. Oh, that is not what I just assigned you to do. I said get behind Nebula. Okay, nice game. Okay, Nebula, into your sprint. Groot is following you somehow. Okay, sprint all. If I can. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hey, it worked. Nebula into the top 3. Oh, no, don't you fade.
Victory right on the line.
Okay, she hangs on for 3rd place. Just 40 left in the group, but what kind of time gaps are actually going to be given? Because, look, there's your whole peloton. So again, sponsor stuff really does not matter much this season as long as we don't lose our sponsor, and we are well comfortable. You can see we're into our last 3 objectives before the end of the July period. 2.5 stars for this one. We need a top 5 overall. We currently sit 3rd place. And then Tour de Finisterre is going on at the same time. Last day of this one is when that's going to happen. We need a top 10 there. 3.5 star objective. That's the big one. Succeed there, and we're good. At least for the positive, if not the super success for the season. So really, it doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter, and it's still hard to accept that it doesn't matter. Because I'm so used to really pushing for those objectives, and that's kind of the main focal point. The focal point is development of the riders, not the sponsor. So, odd to be in this position, but we are. Accepting it is a whole nother matter. In my mind, I'm trying really hard to accept it, but I'm stubborn in my ways, I guess. Continental, we are now 4th in the rankings. We actually picked up 3 wins, 2 stages, and one of those stage wins resulted in an overall general classification victory, I believe, for Thor, who won a climb and then took like 3rd on a time trial, and collectively that resulted in a net win for the race. I want to say that was Joe Martin stage race. 31st in the Super Prestige in just our 2nd season. It's phenomenal how much the team has improved, despite the fact that they've really, really slowed down on their development, but they're already starting to get pretty decent for Continental. Continental Pro is going to be another matter. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we get there. Also, one last thing here, the 6 expiring contracts, all 6 of them don't want to re-sign with the team. They've outgrown the team. The team, remember, has a very, very low profile in terms of reputation. We were an unknown with unknown riders who just have more potential than any other rider in the peloton, but the world doesn't know that. They see the team as it is. And the team as it is, well, at least entering this season, not good. So that aspect means the riders themselves are outpacing the team, so none of them want to resign. Luckily, we can afford the points to get them all hooked dossier-wise and go after them. I could have issues with that in future seasons, but we have ways to get around that, like somehow upping the reputation of the team itself and whatnot, and kind of getting it where riders actually do want to sign with us, because we don't care about the other riders out there. We're just trying to re-sign these guys. Anyway, 446 points. Great season so far, all things considered. Looking forward to a different calendar, different competition level, but it's possible it's not in the works for next season just yet. I don't know. We're not rated that high. I'm Decathlon Gabriel, though. That's going to do it for this episode. Be sure to hit that like button. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.